Update: my brother framed me of rope 8 years ago. But the truth has finally been revealed in February 2016. I got into a major accident and spent a good part of 5 weeks in recovery. The staff told me that they contacted my emergency number, which was still Jenny at that point, and she hung up and no one showed. Once I recovered, I realized that I had spent a good part of my savings and I needed to get back on my feet, if not for anything else, to have a roof over my head. However, I realized that I won't be able to do anything in the place I was at. So I sold all my furniture, paid my remaining dues for the rented accommodation, and decided to start from scratch in a different place. I moved to a city 2 hours away and tried to get a job for some time, but to no avail. I also used to drink myself silly, and thoughts of offering myself were recurring. Waking up after seeing a nightmare to a cold sweat almost became a norm for 4 months. This went by, after which I ran into an old acquaintance, James from college. We greeted each other and talked about our lives for a bit. I told him I was in the city looking for a job. He told me he had just quit and was planning on setting up a management consulting firm of his own. He then invited me to a drink later on, where after a lot of talking about our professional lives, he offered me an opportunity to work with him, as he needed a couple of people who knew their stuff. At this point, I thought I needed to work my butt off to get my mind off these thoughts. So I agreed. But I told him I wanted to meet him and his team and talk to them before we moved forward. 2 days later, he introduced me to another guy, Derek, and told me that currently it will be just the 3 of us going forward. I shook hands with Derek and told them that before they proceeded further, I had something to say. I then proceeded to spill the beans on everything that had happened to me during that time and how I was disowned and divorced because of it, with the tears coming through in between. James and Derek told me that they felt sorry for me, but also told me that if there was no criminal record on my person, then there would be no issue. I stated that police never came to my house and they were relieved. James did mention that to be on the safer side, he's going to ask someone to run a full background check. And I understood his position and agreed. During this time, I was living in a rundown place that I rented to minimize my expenses. I waited patiently for 2 weeks but was still looking for jobs in other places in case things didn't work out. 2 weeks later, James called me and we met up later that day. He stated my record is clean of any rope and welcomed me to the team. After that, I threw myself to my work and started therapy sessions on the advice of Derek. I also joined a gym and vented a lot of my frustration on the punching bag. Derek and I